Koch Industries wants you to know that they did not have anything to do with all those tea parties today. Koch Industries, of course, is an oil and chemical company. It's, in fact, one of the largest privately owned companies of any kind in the United States. Nobody appears to have actually asked Koch Industries today if they were involved in the Tea Party movement, but weirdly, they proactively announced on the occasion of the Tax Day Tea Parties that they are not involved with their tea parties. The folks at Talking Points Memo reported today that they got an unsolicited email last night from a Koch Industries spokesperson that read in part, quote, "Because you have covered tea parties in the past and we imagine you will cover tomorrow's Tax Day Tea Party in D.C., we want to reiterate some important facts. No funding has been provided by Koch companies, the Koch foundations, Charles Koch or David Koch specifically to support the tea parties." Just in case. Is that preemptive, unsolicited denial of any and all involvement in the Tea Party movement on the part of Koch Industries and the Koch family strike you as a little weird? Suspicious? Here's why. Here's the 1 degree of separation between Koch Industries and the Tea Parties. It is Americans for Prosperity. As you can see, David Koch of Koch Industries is the chairman of the board of the Americans for Prosperity Foundation. As it happens, David Koch founded Americans for Prosperity, and Koch Foundations gave Americans for Prosperity more than 5 million smackaroos between 2005 and 2008. So let's say, take a look around this website for this organization that was founded and funded by Koch Industry guys who say they have nothing to do with the tea. Well, look at that. AFP is your Tea Party Central on Tax Day. That certainly looks to be true. The Americans for Prosperity homepage is chock full of pictures and articles and blog entries all about the tea parties. If you check out April 15th on the Americans for Prosperity events calendar, you'll find information on what they call AFP tea parties in 7 states. Want to see a list of Tax Day tea parties all over the country? Well, Americans for Prosperity is the place to go for that. If you're looking for a tea party in North Carolina, the state chapter of Americans for Prosperity directs you to another website, nctaxdayteaparty.com. Same goes for the Maryland chapter of Americans for Prosperity. Click the box that says, "Ready for a tea party?" and you're taken to MarylandTaxDayTeaParty.com, a Tax Day Tea Party site complete with the official Americans for Prosperity logo. And the New Hampshire chapter is clearly very proud of AFP's plan to host Tax Day Tea Parties there. Americans for Prosperity is not trying to hide its role in organizing tea parties. The Missouri chapter has already posted video of local news coverage of its Tax Day Tea Party, and the Oregon and Wisconsin chapters of Americans for Prosperity have posted Tea Party photo slideshows. So David Koch, founder of Americans for Prosperity, wants you to know that he's not at all funding the Tea Party movement, except for that part where he totally funds the Tea Party movement. But other than that, he just wants to get the facts clear. There was also lots of credulous media coverage today of the so-called Contract from America, which was unveiled by, who was this thing unveiled by again? Oh, the American people. God, I totally don't remember signing that. But look, that's my signature. And yours too. See, it's in cursive, so it must be official. The Contract from America is being seen as a second-generation version of Newt Gingrich's Contract with America, which was released amid the 1994 Republican takeover of Congress. See, only this one, though, is signed by the American people. But if you look above the American people's signature, there are some other names that are not in cursive. Looks like the Contract from America was brought to you not just by the American people, but by some organizations as well, like, say, Freedom Works. So when they say signed by the American people, they actually mean signed by legendary corporate lobbyist Dick Armey's corporate-funded Beltway Pressure Group that doesn't disclose its funders. Also, for example, the Heartland Institute. So when they say by the American people, they also mean by a conservative think tank that's reportedly been funded in the past by Exxon and Philip Morris and, surprise, surprise, the Charles Koch Charitable Foundation. So happy Tax Day tea protests, everybody. And congratulations on the Contract from America. I will admit a lot of these events today looked like a lot of fun. I sincerely hope that a lot of people got their I hate taxes yayas out today. But please don't try to rope the rest of us into your parties. Claiming to speak for the American people is kind of a tall order any day, but when you can't even keep your corporate-funded logos off the document you're claiming speaks for the American people, You very big. Your britches comparatively very small, as they say. We'll be right back. All right, I want you to check this out. Here is Malaysia. Capital city is Kuala Lumpur. Here's the city of Perth on Australia's west coast. See Australia there. British Airways Flight 9 is flying from Malaysia to Perth. And they're somewhere over Indonesia when the pilot gets on the PA system and says this. This is an exact quote. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines have stopped. We're doing our damnedest to get it under control. I trust you are not in too much distress." All 4 engines. Little problem. No worries, though, right? When Captain Eric Moody made that remarkably calm announcement to the 260 people on board his plane, the plane was 37,000 feet in the air with no engines. Captain Moody glided the plane down 24,000 feet in total silence. Remember, no engines. Finally, at 13,000 feet, he was able to get one of the engines restarted. At the last minute, he got 3 of the 4 engines restarted, and he got that plane down safely. He's the British Sully, in other words. Once that plane was on the ground, it got even weirder. There was an acrid, sulfury smoke in the cabin that no one could explain, and the windshield of the plane was completely opaque, like it was sandblasted. All the flight crew had been able to see through the whole thing was a bizarre, luminous glowing around the plane. And that incident, which happened in 1982, is why we have rules about not flying through clouds of ash from volcanoes. A volcano in Indonesia called Mount Galunggung, forgive my pronunciation, had erupted. That British Airways flight went right through the ash cloud. It was at night. They couldn't see it. Ash clouds are dry, so they don't turn up on weather radar. But the particulate matter and the silicates from that volcanic cloud just locked up that jet's engines. The rules now are that flights are supposed to keep 120 nautical miles away from any volcanic ash, which is all well and good. Volcanoes do go off from time to time. Good to have these rules. But the 7-mile-long plume of ash that has come out of this volcano that's just erupted in Iceland is so huge, and winds are spreading that ash so far that all flights in and out of Britain are canceled, at least until noon local time tomorrow, something that has never happened in living memory. Airports in Ireland, Holland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Belgium, France, and Germany have all canceled flights, making this the biggest disruption to air travel since 9/11 by far. This is the 2nd time in a month that this particular volcano has erupted. And the current eruption happened under a glacier, causing floodwaters that forced hundreds of Icelanders to have to evacuate. One weird fact about this, though, even though Iceland is right in the middle of all this, the eruption is happening in Iceland, the eruption there is not affecting flights in and out of Iceland itself. You can blame prevailing northwesterly winds that are slowly blowing this ash plume all the way across Europe. Now, no one knows when the weather might shift to allow planes back in the air. No one knows how long this volcano is going to continue to erupt. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but the last time this volcano erupted back in 1821, it kept erupting for more than a year. I'm joined now by Tina Neal. She is a volcanologist with the U.S. Geological Survey. She has studied volcanoes extensively, including flying around active volcanoes to monitor them. She joins us tonight from Anchorage. Tina Neal, thanks very much for being here. Appreciate your time.
Happy to be here.
Does the giant size of the plume of ash from this particular volcano have anything to do with the fact that it is under a glacier? Do we know what explains why the plume is so big?
Well, you are correct. The fact that this eruption occurred under an ice cap added to the explosivity of the event, and so that did produce a large volume of fine particulate material which is drifting across Europe. But I should point out that really, as eruptions go around the planet, this is not one of the largest ones. This ash cloud is not bigger than ash clouds we saw from Alaska just a couple of years ago. It's just that it's so close to a populated area with a lot of air travel that it's making such a disruption.
What is in that plume of ash that makes it so damaging to aircraft? What's in that? What looks like a cloud, but we know isn't?
Right. Volcanic ash clouds are mixtures of fragments of lava, crystal, and volcanic glass, along with volcanic gases. And they are hot when they erupt, they travel high into the atmosphere, and then are carried with the prevailing winds. But it's the solid particulate material that is most dangerous to aircraft. A jet flying through an ash cloud will suffer abrasion of the windscreen and the leading edges, as you described. But more severely, if enough ash is ingested into the engines, they can actually quit. It's the ash that's interfering with the operation of the jet engine.
In 1783, I spent a long time reading about this today, so forgive me, but as far as I understand it, poisonous ash from an eruption at a different volcano in Iceland apparently damaged crops and caused damage to such an extent that it's blamed for killing thousands of people in Europe. Again, this is back in the 1700s. Other major eruptions have been said to change the climate, at least for short periods of time. How do you know whether a volcano is going to cause long-term regional or even global effects? What's the most important thing to know about an eruption to know whether it could be that severe?
Well, those eruptions were quite unusual in that they were very long-lived. They went on for more than a year, and they erupted voluminous quantities of lava and ash. This eruption so far is much, much smaller, several thousand times smaller than the size of those eruptions. So the most important parameter really is the duration of the